When we look at the state of the world in the media, we're confronted by one crisis after another. The planet heating up with more and more people feeling genuine eco-anxiety, inequality on the rise with the gap between rich and poor growing ever wider, and in a post-COVID world we hear increasing reports about the mental health crisis taking its grip on almost every age group in society. We scroll through our social media feeds seeing forest fires, floods, wars, and injustices around the world. The news industry is a non-stop 24-hour-a-day cycle of violent political, environmental, and societal crises saturating our senses and numbing us to all the suffering and pain felt around the world. And a lot of people end up in a very real state of compassion fatigue. We live in the most informed era in human history, but we're also the most overwhelmed. So what happens when we're constantly bombarded with this overload of news, ads, social campaigns, and clickbait? Well, we either just keep scrolling past it like jaded old cynics, or get sucked into the idea that sharing a post, changing our profile pic, or signing online petitions actually helps address real-life issues. And I don't deny this kind of clicktivism can help raise awareness for various causes, but the fundamental problem with such performative low-effort actions is that they ultimately lead to corresponding low levels of actual impact in the real world. Plus it feeds into the illusion that we've done our bit. We can fool ourselves into thinking we're socially conscious, empathetic progressives that care about the plight of those less fortunate than us. And it's not like we don't know that we have to change. We know the planet is in trouble. We know our systems aren't working. We know that business as usual is no longer an option. We all know what's wrong and that things have to change. Yet, most of us do absolutely nothing about it. We sit in our comfort bias and purposely avoid changing our convenient daily routines. We might even think someone should really do something about that, and then criticize the local authorities, private companies, the police, or the government for not doing their jobs properly. So why do we keep ignoring the obvious need to act? Why do we feel so helpless? Why are we drowning in facts, yet paralyzed to act? Why do we find it so easy to fall back on excuses like the issue's too big, it's too late to do anything, and I'm just one person? What if that someone who should do something is you? Why can't you and people like you make a difference? Because the truth is, meaningful sustained change has never started in parliaments or boardrooms. It starts in classrooms, in garages, in small towns, in the quiet courage of people who decide that enough is enough. As Margaret Mead, the American cultural anthropologist and writer, famously said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." So this video isn't about doom and despair, it's about power. The power of individuals, of communities, of everyday people who refuse to wait. People who recognize that we live in a system that lies to us, that tells us we're inconsequential, that dulls us into compliance, that addicts us to our comforts, and ultimately, that wants us to do nothing that challenges the status quo. Because we only have to take a look back in history to find countless examples of everyday people who decided they'd had enough and did something which led to tangible, meaningful, and sustained change. Take Rosa Parks, the African-American seamstress in Montgomery, Alabama in the United States, who refused to give up her bus seat in 1955 in defiance of Jim Crow racial segregation laws and sparked the 381-day Montgomery bus boycott. Her act of resistance triggered a movement that changed American civil rights law forever. One woman, one seat. And then there's Wangari Maathai, a Kenyan biologist, environmental and political activist, who in response to the environmental concerns raised by rural Kenyan women in the 1970s, started planting trees with those very women. Her Green Belt movement grew to plant over 50 million trees and became one of Africa's most successful environmental initiatives. Her activism reshaped Kenyan law and earned her the Nobel Peace Prize. One woman with an unstoppable will. Both Rosa and Wangari were ordinary people who made extraordinary impact. Women who had the courage of their convictions, and critically, who didn't have power to start with. They created it. So in our modern day age, with the internet, Google and ChatGPT at our fingertips, the problem is clearly not awareness. It is regrettably inaction. The fact is, the distance between knowing and doing is unfortunately where most good intentions die. The longer you wait for a perfect time to act, the more likely your plans to do something will fall away, only to be replaced by some other distraction. So how do we close that gap between knowing something has to be done and actually doing something about it? Well, in my opinion, the easiest way to start is to start small. And I've said it before, but I'll say it again. The key is consistency. Take Greta Thunberg, for example. Whatever you think about her, you cannot deny what she has achieved. In 2018, Greta sat alone outside the Swedish parliament holding a handwritten sign saying, "School strike for climate." She was 15. She had no team, no money, no movement, but her action resonated. By the following year, she had inspired the Fridays for Future movement, in which millions of students around the world joined her in the streets. Her strike engaged young people worldwide, pressured governments to declare climate emergencies, and pushed climate action into the global spotlight. It started with one student, one sign, one Friday. This type of selfless courage to lead by example embodies the essence of Mahatma Gandhi's often cited quote to be the change you wish to see in the world. But as you can imagine, living up to the aspirational intention of that saying can seem daunting. I personally believe that quote is not telling people they have to be perfect. Rather, it's about being brave enough to begin. Brave enough to move our values from hashtags to practical application. And what's more, that age and experience are not legitimate barriers. You may or may not have heard of a young Dutch inventor and entrepreneur named Boyan Slat, who at the age of 16, while diving in Greece, saw so much plastic floating in the sea, he felt compelled to do something about it. At 18, he dropped out of a university degree in aerospace engineering and founded a non-profit organization called the Ocean Cleanup to rid the world's oceans of plastic, specifically with the goal of removing 90% of floating ocean plastic by 2040. His inspirational work has influenced policies on marine waste and recycling across the EU. I love his sentiment when he shared, "When people say something is impossible, the sheer absoluteness of that statement should be a motivation to investigate further." And millions of people around the world have also been inspired by Malala Yousafzai, a young Pakistani female education activist who was shot in the head by a Taliban gunman for going to school in Pakistan. Yet she chose to keep fighting for her right to education. Her courage ignited a movement that led to Pakistan's first right to education bill, and she became the youngest Nobel Prize laureate in history, receiving the prize in 2014 at the age of 17, saying, "I raise up my voice, not so that I can shout, but so that those without a voice can be heard. Boyan and Malala were two brave young people who didn't wait for systems to change. They embodied the change they wished to see and forced systems to catch up, both leading by example with stories we can all learn a great deal from. But being the change doesn't even have to be on such a grand scale. It can be gradual and even unglamorous actions that make your daily choices a reflection of your values, such as eating more plant-based meals, supporting ethical companies, or conversely, voting with your wallet and boycotting unethical companies. Use your voice and start conversations that actually matter, that discuss real-life issues and identify relevant and achievable solutions. Find out who and what organizations are active and mobilizing people to address issues you care about and support them in whatever way you can. For example, if you see your local river is being polluted and nobody's doing anything about it, research the issue, raise your voice, rally people around the cause, and don't wait for permission to make your community a better, safer, and healthier place to live in. We keep waiting for leaders, waiting for policies, waiting for the right time. But the truth is, leadership doesn't come from the top. It rises from below, from people who care deeply enough to act. One of my favorite recent examples that explicitly demonstrates this is the story behind the International Court of Justice's advisory opinion on climate change, which all began with 27 law students from the University of the South Pacific's Emilus campus in the small Pacific island nation of Vanuatu, who mobilized a student-led campaign to demand accountability for the climate crisis, and gained so much momentum that it led to a UN General Assembly resolution and eventually a comprehensive opinion from the court. This initiative, driven by youth movements like the Pacific Island Students Fighting Climate Change and supported by over 130 nations, sought to clarify states' international legal obligations to address the climate crisis. The ICJ's opinion, delivered in July 2025, clarified what states are obligated to do under international law to prevent climate harm, reduce emissions, and protect the rights of those most affected, confirming that inaction is a breach of international law, which will undoubtedly have real, tangible, and far-reaching implications for the future of climate action worldwide. That change didn't start with young people waiting for permission. It started with conviction and courageous, everyday individuals who decided enough was enough despite the odds. And as Nelson Mandela, the iconic South African leader, famously said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." The fact is, in most cases, we already know what must change. So the question isn't what, it's when. And maybe the answer to that question is right now. Because the story of this era of human history won't be written by politicians or billionaires. It'll be written by people who choose courage over comfort, conviction over cynicism, and action over apathy. As the Dalai Lama reminded us, if you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. So why not just start small? Start messy, fail often and fail fast, but most importantly, start today. History belongs to the ones who chose to start, not those who watched on the sidelines. And the future, our shared collective future, is waiting for you to do just that. You don't need permission. You don't need perfection. You just need to start right now. And I'll stop there for today. I'd like to thank you for watching this episode. Please feel free to share the video with anyone it might resonate with. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Give it a like. Subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you again soon.